Hey Squad! Today in our fourth and final installment of the Back to School series, we are talking about lunch. So this will be Abram's first year at preschool, and this will be my first experience with packing a lunch. So I'm not an expert, this is just my thoughts going into it as being a new mom of a school-aged kid and a first-time lunch packer. So what this is not going to be is a list of lunch ideas. There are a lot of really helpful YouTube videos out there for that. There are a lot of good ideas on Pinterest, so I would recommend searching for that. This is more so just my 5 tips for packing lunches and how I plan to go about it. I did share one of these in the second installment of this series where we talked about getting out the door on time. If you are just now seeing this and you have not seen the other 3 videos in the playlist, I will link them in the description box below. There's a whole playlist and you can go and view them all. All right, tip number 1 is that one that I shared in the video previously, and that is to pack lunches at night. This is kind of a no-brainer, but doing it at nighttime just kind of eliminates that task from being part of the hustle of the morning. Also, I will add to this that if your children are older, even just young elementary age, they may be able to initiate some of these packing tasks. Of course, they can throw something prepackaged into a lunchbox, but this morning Abram is 4 and I had him make his and Andy's toast. So I actually put the toast in the toaster, but once it came out, he was able to spread the peanut butter on his own. It was sort of revolutionary for me because we've never done that before, and I thought, okay, I could start delegating some tasks to you. So if your kids are a little bit older, you might be able to say, would you please do blank for your lunchbox? Tip number 2 is something that I'd kind of thought of on my own, and I've recently also seen a few other people post about this, but that is just to keep a master list of items by category. So your main entree, something crunchy, a fruit or a vegetable, maybe something sweet, and just kind of keeping a list of those things. Number 1, if your kids are old enough to help with that lunch packing process, then I think this could be a good resource for them, especially if they are at the age they are able to read, and then they can make their own decisions as to which things they want from each category. But it can also be really helpful for a parent who is tired at the end of the day and can't put one foot in front of the other to look at this list of categories and say, oh, okay, this is not that hard. You know, I can put this together in 10 minutes. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to make an actual list or just kind of have them compiled in my head. I'm starting to think more and more that I might make an actual list and just keep it in the drawer next to our fridge and freezer. And then that way it's there with my meal planning supplies and I can refer to it if it's one of those days where I'm spacing out and can't think of what I should pack him for lunch. Number 3, I would say pack what you know they will eat. Pack what you know they like. And this is just because you are not there likely. If you're going to be sending your child to school packing a lunch, then you're probably not going to be there. And it's not as simple as maybe at dinner or at breakfast when you can substitute something else for them. This is not the meal to try a lot of new foods. They need some consistency there. So of course, put some healthy options in there, but also make sure that some things in the lunchbox are things that your kids will eat without a doubt. The 4th tip is something that I actually learned one time when I was substitute teaching at preschool, and that is to not pack so much. Of course, you want your kids to be full, you want them to have enough food, but the day that I was substitute teaching, it was my job to go with another teacher and set out the lunch boxes at each kid's stations. So that's sort of what they do at preschool, at least at this preschool, is they go ahead and they open the juices and cut up anything that needs to be cut up. And so that way when the kids come in, all they have to do is sit down and eat. And the teacher said to me, these parents pack so much food for their kids and then we have to throw so much of it away. And for some reason that has just always stuck with me. I've never forgotten it. I think it will take a little bit of learning for me. It'll be a learning curve to figure out how much Abram will eat for lunch in an environment where he's not at home and that is his main meal there. So I definitely want to make sure that I'm packing him enough, but I don't want to see that food go to waste. So that is tip number 4, is just don't overpack. This relates directly to a tip that I talked about with breakfast, and I talked about Are you going to get dressed before breakfast or after breakfast? And I talked about knowing your child. And this is the same thing. Knowing your child, learning your child, figuring out their appetite is really going to affect how much you pack. I know I was reading a thread recently online where people were talking about bento boxes and if that was a good choice or not for their child. If you're not familiar with bento boxes, they are a lunchbox that has tiny little compartments so that you can add a lot of different items. I really like the concept. They are also very pricey. Of course, if you carry it every day, you're going to get more than your money's worth out of it. But we have these lunch boxes already that I had mentioned in a previous video. I have mentioned them several times. They are the Sistema brand. I think I paid 50 cents for one at a yard sale and 25 cents for another at a yard sale. And they are sectioned, and I really think that for now, this is what we are going to use. I may end up changing that, but some people did say in reference to the bento boxes, yes, this works for my younger child, but now my older child eats enough that it won't hold all of his food. So I think that that is a really good point, that just you have to know your child, and definitely what works for someone else may not always work for you. One note, and I did mention this in the school supplies video, but if you do look into these, I think they are listed on Amazon, they are not a waterproof design. So if you have anything like yogurt or applesauce, anything that is going to be damp that may leak out, I would put that in a separate container, because in these you're going to end up with a mess. These are best for sandwiches, wraps, anything small and crunchy, fruits and vegetables that aren't going to be too soggy. Anything like that works great in these. I still have not found Abram's actual lunch box yet. I'm hoping to find one at a yard sale before we start preschool, or at the thrift store. If not, I will find an affordable option somewhere else. I did want to share his book bag. I shared this on Instagram last week. I found this book bag whenever I was filming my school supplies video, and I felt drawn to it, but I wasn't sure, so I left it. Well, I came back the next week, and lo and behold, it was still there. And if you are familiar with thrifting, if you see something that you like twice, you need to go ahead and pick it up, because you probably will not see it the third time. So I bought this book bag for $2 and some change, and then I took it to a local shop and had them embroider his name on the front pocket. So I was able to get an embroidered personalized book bag for less than $11, and he loves it. I love it. I think that he will use it for quite a while. So yes, we are still on the hunt for a lunchbox. If you have any great recommendations for lunchboxes, you can leave them down below. With these particular containers, I would prefer to have something where it's not going to be turned on its side, if that makes sense. If the lunchboxes could lay flat, that would be a good design. And I'm not really sure yet how that's going to work with what I find. We'll see how that goes. Okay, and that brings me to my fifth and final tip. Just like with the breakfast tips, this is not so much a tip for how to pack the lunches. This is more of a mindset thing. This is something that I thought about that I think I really want to try to do, and that is while I'm packing Abram's lunch, I want to pray for him, for his day, and I also want to pray for his classmates and the people that he will be sitting with at lunch. You know, it's very possible that someone that your child is sitting next to may not have a lunch that looks as good or as filling as the lunch that your child has. You know, these are just things that I think about. So while I'm packing his lunch, I just plan to say a little prayer for him, for his day, and for the people that he's sitting around. And I just know that when I'm sending him off to school, that that's just a little blessing for him and for those kids. And with that, that wraps up our back to school series. I hope that you found something about this helpful to you and your unique situation and stage that you are in life right now. Let me know down in the comments what was helpful for you, especially if you have any lunch hacks, anything that works incredibly well for your kids, anything that you've learned to not do. Especially as a first timer doing this, I would really appreciate it. I love all of the beautiful Pinterest lunch boxes that have sandwiches that are cut out in shapes and all of that kind of thing. I don't think I'll be doing this every day, but I think for special occasions, holidays, I want to incorporate some of that. So if you would like to see some of my holiday lunchbox creations, just let me know down in the comments and I will include that as those holidays roll around. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for following along with this back to school series, and I will be talking to you soon.